And we are live. We are live this May 29th, 2015 for our Friday Hangout, Responsible Local Travel in the USA, hashtag Local Travel USA. I'm Ron Moddard, host of Funeta.com, founder of the website that 20 years ago focused our attention on ecotourism. With me is collaborator Deborah McLaren, who will tell us about the responsible local travel in the USA, and we have two wonderful guests. So, Deborah, on to you.
Thank you, Ron. I want to thank our guests for being here today, too. I think this is going to be very informative and helpful to people that are interested in responsible tourism and travel in the U.S. We're basically reaching out to people that are doing good work in the U.S. Responsible travel is a term and a concept that's widely known. There's a lot of organizations in Europe and Asia. South Africa has a responsible travel policy in their government tourism program. It's all about responsible tourism. But in the United States, we don't really have much of that kind of concept. But people are doing really good work, and a lot of it is related to tourism and travel. So we're reaching out to sort of grassroots movements, the local foods movement, the local travel, buy local independent business alliances and campaigns across the country. Those kind of businesses and campaigns and movements actually are part of our U.S. travel industry. It's not always understood that well, but our mission is really to take part of the big tourism picture and budget and money in the U.S. and to direct those more into local businesses and try to provide education about why that's important, not to just do at home, but also when you travel. So we're reaching out to all those groups. We have Evelyne White here today, who has founded Bookalokal and an app that we're going to hear about. It's part of the sharing economy, and the sharing economy really focuses a lot on travel. So it's an exciting whole area. Very much person to person, very local, Bookalokal. And then we have Emily Northey, who is with Minnesota Mainstreet, and her work focuses on helping communities, primarily rural communities, with their revitalization of their downtown Main Street areas. And of course that, again, directly relates to tourism and independent businesses and helping those towns revitalize and ultimately direct more dollars into those local stores instead of chain stores. So thank you again for joining us, both Evelyne and Emily. We're going to probably go first with Evelyne, since she might have to leave a little early. And I'd like to just invite you to introduce yourself and tell us about Bookalokal.
Sure. Thank you, Deborah. I'm Evelyne White. I'm the founder and CEO of Bookalokal. And Bookalokal is a marketplace for local dining experiences. I started Bookalokal 2.5 years ago, and when I was living in Brussels, Belgium. I'm from the U.S., but was living there for about 7 years. And I was using Airbnb and couch surfing a lot, in both directions, using it as a customer and also using it as a host. And I realized that every single time I met a traveler through Airbnb, what they were looking for was an authentic connection. And there was some of that they could get by staying in a local apartment, but there was really something else missing. And so I started experimenting with different ways to further that connection, to deepen the connection, and to make a travel experience more authentic. And started offering meals to the travelers. Before long, I was the first host, and then other people became hosts, and then we built up a nice little community in Brussels. And then it really took on, it became much larger than just me and a few people. And then I started working on it full time, and now I'm fully dedicated to Bookalokal. Today we have hosts in 46 countries, and new people popping up every single day. We've expanded from just people like me cooking a meal in their home to people who are also local food entrepreneurs hosting in their businesses. Really anybody who wants to host some kind of experience is welcome to join the platform. And then we vet the hosts either in person if we're able, where we have people on the ground, we're able to vet them. And then for people who join, in faraway places, we do verifications and make sure that we're getting good people on the platform. So far, everybody's really been fantastic. We've just hit the 10,000 customer mark, 10,000 people having actually dined and used the site, and growing very quickly.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
You want to give us a little example of how you would sign up and how that would work?
So as a host, you mean, or as a guest?
Both, I guess, but maybe a guest.
Sure, the guest, so the way, if you've ever used a site like Airbnb or Booking.com, or really any one of these sites that starts off with the question of, where are you going? It could be your own city, and that's something we're talking about travel on this Hangout, but actually 3/4 of our users use Bookalokal in their own city. So it's kind of a way to travel within your own environment, and I might live in Lower Manhattan and want to go to Queens for the afternoon and try some Greek food. So you don't have to go to Greece to try Bookalokal, to try Greek food. So the way that it works, if you're a guest, is you type in the city you want to find experiences in, and then you get a list of what's available, and you can sort and filter just like on other sites. You can look at sort by price. You can sort by type of cuisine. You can even sort by the language that the host speaks. So you can filter it down to any way you want. And then you browse different experiences. You can see dinners and lunches and cooking classes, wine tastings. And the way that it works is either there's already a date set for that event to take place, and then you can just sign up and join, and you purchase a spot online. Or some hosts just list, they list a meal that they could cook, but they're open to, open for guests to suggest a date. So in that case, you would go on and say, well, I'm going to Paris on June 2nd, so are you available on June 2nd or June 3rd or whatnot? And then the host can either accept it or reject it based on their availability. For a host to sign up, all they really need to do is click on the little button on the top right that says become a host, I want to host, and then it walks you through kind of the steps of setting up a profile, and then you describe what you can offer. So some people say I can cook this amazing 4-course dinner, other people say I can teach you how to make beer. Really any kind of food experience that you want to offer, you can list. And then as soon as you submit your profile, we review every single profile to make sure that the content is appropriate, and then we reach out to the host and set up a verification.
Okay, well, I have submitted my application, I guess, and so I hope to get approved, because we would love, my husband and I cook a lot of Indian food in Minnesota, so we would like to be able to host some meals here. And from what I understand, I'm the first one to sign up in Minnesota. So I'm pretty proud about that. I think Evelyne is frozen. This happens sometimes on...
She's just smiling. She's just smiling.
Smiling.
We are a little bit clippy today. I don't know what's happening. Well, I'm glad we got that explanation before the screen froze.
Yeah. So, Emily, would you like to take the opportunity and tell us a little bit about yourself and Minnesota Mainstreet?
Sure, thank you. Well, so I'm Emily Northey. I'm the Minnesota Mainstreet coordinator at the Preservation Alliance of Minnesota. Minnesota Main Street is recognized nationally by the National Main Street Center, which is part of the National Trust for Historic Preservation. And we're also funded in part with funds provided by the state of Minnesota from the Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund through the Minnesota Historical Society. And they partner with us in delivering services to local communities. So what do we do? So Minnesota, so the bulk of the work happens in local communities. The local communities have identified that it's very important to them to revitalize their downtown, and they want to do it in a grassroots way with lots of volunteer help and really connecting and developing relationships with the businesses in their downtown or their main street or their neighborhood commercial district. And they do this by focusing on leveraging their existing assets. So what are their assets? They are the people, the entrepreneurs, the local stories, the built assets. So the buildings, the feel of the town, of the downtown, you know, what it looks like, and also the community support, the philosophical support for having a strong downtown and understanding what that means to the rest of the community or the rest of their region. And so this work is steeped in historic preservation of the buildings and really seeing that as helping the buildings to be the best old building of that particular type as it can be, and really leveraging that asset which cannot be replaced. But it's also really over the last 30 years of being in use has been using this historic preservation work, this asset-based work, to be an economic development tool for the community and doing economic development through these means. In heritage tourism, we see the very first step for a community is to help their downtown to be something that is a draw for local residents. The local residents are going to be the best way of spreading positive or negative word of mouth about the downtown and what it's like to be there. They'll be recommending to friends and family from out of town whether or not they should go there to eat when they're visiting, or whether they need to go to the next town over or to the Applebee's at the edge of the town, which is not to say bad things about Applebee's, but you can find them in lots of places, and the local restaurants are really unique, one-of-a-kind places that you won't be able to experience elsewhere. And so if you're focusing on the residents as the first audience for tourism, it'll make other marketing or other word of mouth be a lot easier. And usually the types of places that residents really enjoy going to are also places that tourists enjoy and will seek out. We find that if you focus first on the visitor and leave the resident for later, that sometimes some alienation can occur that really makes it a less pleasant experience for the visitors or the residents. There are some. Oh, go ahead.
Can you see the slide that I'm sharing here? This is one of your slides.
Yes. So this was a great example of leveraging local assets. This is from downtown Red Wing. Their Main Street program, Red Wing Downtown Main Street, worked with local artists and foundations to open up a temporary pop-up regional arts gallery in a vacant storefront. That was a very large storefront on their main highway through their downtown, so it's very visible. They worked with local artists to decorate the window. You can see on the top of it there are some sort of stained glass type leaves and trees. And they also this picture doesn't do it justice, but really lit it spectacularly from the inside in the evenings. And that really made a statement to people passing by about the viability of this commercial space and made it a much more pleasant space while it was in there. You know, the impact that even a temporary use in a vacant space has on its neighbors and on the whole commercial district can really be quite dramatic compared to if that space is empty and dark with a for lease sign in it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so they also received a lot of positive feedback about this. They had a lot of visitors. They turned a profit in terms of sales of the art in the gallery. And also, if you go to the next picture for this, they also really used it both in the window displays and in the interior way that the store was set up, really used it as a mechanism for telling their story. And they had some really great placards that were up explaining why they were doing this work and why it was important, not just to have an art gallery in their downtown, but what its effect was on the economy and also on the culture as a whole. Here it is. So they used this to explain, and they had a series of these throughout the gallery and in the window displays that were telling different stories that also helped to move people around the store and could function as storytelling devices when the gallery was closed, because it had very select hours, focusing on evenings and weekends, heading into and just beyond Christmas for the holiday shopping.
Excuse me. How long was this pop-up art gallery open?
I think it was mid-October through the first or second week of January, but I'm probably a little bit off on those dates.
So about 3 months.
Yeah, but only Thursday evening, Friday evening, and then on Saturday and or Sunday. And with it being a bit sparser at the early end and with heavier hours as you got closer to Christmas.
And I imagine it was a rotating group of artists that helped staff it while it was open, or?
I think it was mostly staffed by Mainstreet, the Mainstreet program's volunteers, and their staff were the ones who were there most of the time, I think. I think the artists were doing what they do at galleries and supplying their art.
Nice. Can you see this new pop-up?
I can see it.
New screen share?
Yeah, we see it.
Great. So local Mainstreet programs collect reinvestment statistics about their downtown district or their Main Street district. And we've been collecting these figures since 2010. And on this slide, you can see a sampling of what that information is. And this acts as a census more than it acts as a, the Mainstreet program made all of these things happen. It's more telling the story about what's happening within their districts. Right now in Minnesota, we have 7 communities: Shakopee, Willmar, New Ulm, Red Wing, Faribault, Owatonna, and Winona, for those watching from Minnesota or familiar with them. And of our Mainstreet programs, they have seen a net increase of 245 full-time, or 257 full-time jobs. 24 businesses have expanded and stayed within the district. There have been a net gain of 70 businesses, and an ROI for how much it's cost to run the local programs of about $17 per dollar running a program in 2014. So we've been seeing some pretty positive growth in the last 5 years, especially given the recession that was underway in the meantime too. We did see pretty steady growth throughout the recession as well. So so it's hard to know where you're going if you're not tracking it, and this is the way that we do that in Mainstreet. Let's see, if I can do a screen share, I'd like to share with the people watching some ways to look up Mainstreet and historic preservation related tools to heritage tourism.
Wonderful.
Okay, so I think I need to do that. There we go.
So
Welcome back.
what I'm impressed about with Mainstreet is that it is, to me, the real definition of responsible travel, because I know that's only one aspect of it, but Ron and I agree on a definition of responsible travel, that it's a better place to live and a better place to visit. That responsible travel is not just about encouraging mass tourism to a destination, that it's making and cultivating an experience for locals as well.
Yes, yes, definitely. So if you're looking for more, especially web or written resources related to Mainstreet's take on that, going to preservationnation.org and searching for heritage tourism in the search box is the best way to find those. And so here you'll see the results of when I did this earlier. And I'd like to especially show you the heritage tourism main page of that, the information center, that includes tips and strategies on how a community can use heritage tourism to bring economic vitality. And they also really break it down into different steps, into a survival toolkit, which Deborah had reminded me about earlier, and some success stories and other resources that can be found through this organization. This is through the National Trust of Historic Preservation.
Preservationnation.org.
We'll take
Preservationnation.org.
of these links. You are more than welcome to. You are welcome to post the link into that Google event page.
Okay.
And we will certainly make sure that we add the links to the show notes so that people go back to it.
Okay.
And thank you so much. That's great to see.
Fantastic. Thank you.
It's great that you are able to document so many jobs, and I noticed that there was a lot of numbers for event attendees. So the pop-up art gallery was an example. Can you give us a couple of other examples of events?
Yeah, Mainstreet programs look at the way a downtown can be marketed in terms of advertising, in terms of retail events that are meant to drive sales during or shortly after the event, and also festivals, which probably won't result in near-term sales, but will bring people and visibility to the downtown during it, who may be people who might say, oh, there's nothing to do downtown. I haven't been there in 17 years, which is the type of comment we typically hear at the beginning of a Mainstreet program. And so so those types of events are what you saw in those numbers, and those numbers also only look at events that the Mainstreet program is responsible for, not all of the events that might be held by other organizations or groups within their community and their downtown. So examples of what those events might be are, holiday parades, ladies' night out shopping events, restaurant passports to encourage dining during a specific time, different types of events focusing around chocolate or beer or biking, music.
So very local. Everything's really focused on the local there, which is great.
Yeah.
Emily, can you just tell us how a town would become a Mainstreet program?
Sure. Well, I'd say the first step is to go to our website at mnpreservation.org, and we have a handbook there that was created a couple of years ago called Considering Mainstreet, and they can learn more about it that way. We're actually in the process of updating that handbook to make it more user-friendly and a little bit less like a textbook. Right now it's a bit like a textbook, but that's going to take a while. So depending on how long it's been since this, you know, how long ago it is for you when you're watching this, it might be done by now. So you should look there. At the very least, you can give us a call at the office and ask us what you should do, and you can find that number also on our website at mnpreservation.org.
Wonderful. One extra question here. How is Mainstreet helping to cultivate the responsible travel in the United States, or potentially a travel network? Or, I mean, it's pretty obvious how you do in individual towns, but can you explain a little bit more about how Mainstreet programs are kind of more nationally contributing to this?
Well, so the majority of work in Mainstreet does happen at the local level. You know, I think that Mainstreet has focused a lot on heritage tourism within the realm of visitorship, and that is a natural fit for responsible tourism. Mainstreet programs locally usually have very tight relationships with their local businesses, including the lodging and attractions industries. And so kind of depending on what the network is that you're growing, I think that various local programs would be good fits for that. And then, you know, I think that reaching out to the National Mainstreet Center would be an option, or exploring what's available at that level nationally.
Awesome. Well, it's exciting to hear about something happening right here in Minnesota. We're going to go back to Evelyne, who's been patiently waiting. I just want to be able to give her a little bit more time. And also, Evelyne, if you could also maybe address that question about how Bookalokal might be helping to cultivate more of a national responsible travel in the United States.
So, sure. To be honest, I never thought of Bookalokal from the beginning as being about responsible travel as much as I thought of it about it's authentic travel. It's the kind of travel that that I don't even like to use the word tourist. I mean that traveler, when you travel to a new place, what you remember is when you connect with people. And I think what gives you a strong connection to a city and a desire to treat it well and to treat it respectfully is when you have that strong connection through the people that live there, and when you understand it, when you understand the culture of the place you're visiting. And so that's really where the inspiration for Bookalokal came from, and the bonds that have come out of it, the relationships that have come out of it. I mean, people traveling from all different corners of the globe and have now formed friendships. And I've heard of, an Indian family visited someone in Belgium who then they went on vacation with their kids in France in a farmhouse. I mean, so it's been more about helping people foster connections when they travel, and not just have that impersonal experience of open up a guidebook and figure out where to go on your own. And we're all not focused really on just in the U.S. It really is. I actually started the company in Europe, and now it has grown, and it's growing throughout the U.S. But the idea is to connect people all around the globe. If that answers your question.
Well, it really connects people.
Yeah.
Ron, would you like to add anything here or ask any questions?
I'm having some technical. I'll keep it, but if you can hear me, the big question I have is, should we even be using the word responsible travel or local travel, or should we just say engaging travel?
I've never really, I mean, until connecting with you guys in the context of this hangout, really. I mean, I've heard the term responsible travel, but I don't like to use it to describe Bookalokal. Or that's not the intent. I mean, the intent really is just to help people get more engaged, to realize, to be where they are, to be present where they are, to make lasting connections with where they are. And I think local and authenticity go hand in hand. You know, getting that local experience. You know, in St. Louis, Budweiser is the local experience, for example, but maybe not in Minnesota, or, you know, so whatever is local to a place, I think, and whatever helps give context and history so that the people traveling there understand it and walk away with more memories, better memories, more authentic memories. That's our goal. I never thought I would think Budweiser is authentic, but I just spent a lot of time in St. Louis, Missouri, and realized that is authenticity there. You know, in Brooklyn, it might be the Brooklyn Brewery. I don't know what it is where you guys all are, but
we have a huge resurgence of craft breweries in Minnesota. Emily, you might know more about it than I do because you are out there working in small towns, and I know the Red Wing Brewery has a lot of signs from the old breweries all around the state. There was a big, you know, small town brewery. Every town had a brewery until Prohibition. So finally now every town is getting their local brewery again.
Yeah, there are lots of breweries opening across the state. There's one opening up this summer in Faribault. Red Wing has one. Wilmer, I think, has one planned to open this summer as well. So definitely the craft brewing has been taking off like wildfire here in Minnesota. And I think going back to the question about calling it local or responsible local travel, I think just depends on your audience. If your audience is people who, you know, are at the forefront of the green movement, of sustainability, of fair trade, I think the word responsible will really resonate with them. But if the intended audience is the more general public, then I think the word responsible might sound a bit weighty and maybe a little bit less like a vacation, and more like something they're doing very carefully. Which, when I vacation, I mostly don't want to be very careful.
Yeah, for eco-tours, I mean, there are certain ways that you can travel more responsibly and have less of an impact on where you're going. I agree with you. It kind of depends which segment of travel you're in, but I think when it comes to food and curated experiences, and it doesn't all fall under the umbrella of responsible travel. It's local.
Yeah. Yeah, responsible local travel is what the name of our events have been, actually, because part of it is really make those authentic connections and, you know, to break the chains is what I like to say.
I do think at the beginning
to what was saying earlier, let me say this, to underscore what Deborah was saying earlier, you know, what we have seen is so many of our colleagues and you know, and friends doing international consultancies and U.S. business and NGOs and government agencies working to improve ecotourism and responsible travel abroad in other countries.
Yes.
And when we come back to the U.S. and look and say, hey, what do we have here? Again, it's divided under all of his different umbrellas. You know, the biking people, the foodie people, biking and foodie people. You know, there's going to be the Dutch oven cook-off in Nevada in October, so you know, get ready to ride and eat well. But we are loath to call that's responsible travel.
Mm-hmm.
But when you look at it and you boil it down, you say, you know, better places to live are better places to visit. And when you put that focus first resident, that has the ripples and the impact upon the visitors and the tourism from other places.
Mm-hmm.
So, and again, it's not everything, but it is an important niche, and it's one that Deborah and I want to explore. It's one that we're thinking, hey, you folks really are, you folks are putting together a very similar jigsaw puzzle. And, forget what we're calling it. What you're doing makes sense.
Right.
Now, how do we how do we catalyze more attention and more awareness for these actions?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's a very accurate term. I think it perfectly describes what you're talking about. It sounded to me like the question was more about maybe a year or 5 years down the road when, what's the phrase called where it really catches fire with more people. It sounds like right now the conversation is mostly a bit more internal to people who are really steeped in local travel, local development, sustainability, and that it's still very much about building this field. And it's hard to know what's going to be a term that will be a bit more of a marketing term later on that'll really resonate with the more general public. So that's what it meant. I think it's spot on, accurate term.
Part of it is that it's a well-known term. PATA, the Pacific Asian Tourism Alliance, their big focus on their annual meeting last year was on responsible tourism in Asia. Responsible tourism was coined in Asia, actually, in the early 70s.
Oh.
And that was with faith groups that were starting to work with communities that were experiencing really negative impacts of tourism, like prostitution, tourism, child labor, all kinds of displacement from their lands. And so that's kind of where it originated, and it is well known in other places. But we realize that it's not very well known in the U.S., and most of the organizations that do any kind of this type of work actually go abroad to do it. But we think that there's a lot of groups that are very much connected, like you guys, that are really kind of under this umbrella, whatever we end up calling it. Because right now we're reaching out to people doing good work, and we're opening the door for conversations. We're finding out who's doing what and making links, and we hope that we'll be able to continue our Friday hangouts and dialogues and hear from more and more people. We've heard from some really cool people so far, and I would like to invite people that are watching this later on or right now to make sure to look at some of our other videos on YouTube, because they address travel activists, like Travelers Against Plastic, TAP. They address the fact that there's 2.7 billion tons of plastic that goes into landfills every year. That's a lot. And so they're very focused on getting people to give up those, buy a clean canteen and a SteriPen. A SteriPen will clean 16,000 times for your clean canteen to make you clear water, good water. So there's a lot of these different types of things going on in the U.S., and it's very good to explore it and find out who's doing what. So make sure to keep in touch with us and look at our other videos and continue this dialogue with us.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for putting this together and for reaching out to so many people.
Yeah, thank you very much.
I think you guys have a lot in common. There's a lot of people in these rural towns in Minnesota that might be brave enough to cook a Swedish meatballs or some lefse or some...
Well, we're looking more and more for small businesses to get on board. So like the craft brewers and the those types. If you want to spread the word, if you can recommend any places, anyone that we should reach out to get on board,
Sure.
let me know.
Okay.
We have each other's emails, so we're
Yes.
yeah. Okay.
Well, thank you guys for your time today. We're going to wrap it up, I guess, a little bit early, which is nice because I know that you have a lot going on, Evelyne. I want to thank you guys very much. You're doing just fantastic, innovative things, and it's very exciting to hear about it.
Same here. Thank you.
Same
Bye.
I think Ron is gone, but I'm going to say so long from Ron, too.
Okay. All right. Bye.
Bye-bye. So Ron's gone. I know he wanted us to stay on for just a little bit to wrap things up, but I think we can go. Oh, there he is. Pop back up. So did you cancel the video?
Hey, good to see you again.
Hey.
Not sure at all what's happening. So there we are. So we have quite a few technical glitches in this Hangout. Thank you very much. Boy, when it rains, it pours.
Do you think it was recorded?
I'm not really sure.
It says live on my screen.
And I think we're still recording, but I'm not exactly sure. We'll find out if we keep it or not, if it actually records to my account, since I'm having a glitchy laptop right now. Usually doesn't happen like this. Usually. But we'll wind this down, and as soon as I can figure out if we are saved, if we've kept this or not. But I'd say, we should reschedule this. And Emily, your presentation was fantastic. Let's make sure we have. Let's make sure we have some of these links. Is Mainstreet using Twitter?
Mainstreet is closing out its Twitter account in the next month or so in Minnesota. The National Mainstreet uses Twitter, and also our parent organization, the Preservation Alliance of Minnesota, has a Twitter account that's used much more actively than Minnesota. Minnesota Mainstreet is just linked with our Facebook page, so it's not really paid much attention.
But you have a Facebook page.
Yeah, so I'd encourage you to connect with the Preservation Alliance of Minnesota's Facebook page. That one's a lot more active and robust.
We'll make sure we can find it, and then we look at it, and we let other people know how to find you.
Somehow you're on two different screens now.
You can't get enough of me.
So you think that was not recorded?
No, I think it was recorded.
Okay.
I believe it is recording now. And as I say, I'm not exactly sure why it's so glitchy. But as soon as I can access my desktop Hangout, I'll end the broadcast.
Emily, did you just mute one of Ron's?
Yes.
Me too.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, well, do you have any other questions, Emily, about this, or?
Yeah, I think we're stopping the broadcast. So